Thank you. Good evening, all councillors, those watching on YouTube, anyone watching on to this Weymouth Town Council Finance and Governance Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 6th of May, 2026. We have apologies received from Councillor Baum. Let's straight into item 2, sorry. Apologies have been received from Councillor Baum, who is substituted very ably by Councillor Clifford. Thank you. And everyone else, as far as I'm aware, is present and correct. So I propose that we approve Councillor Baum's apologies. Councillor Leary very kindly seconded them, and this is just waving. No, wonderful man. Votes for? Votes against? Abstentions? There we go. Excellent. Item 3, declarations of interest. There are none pre-notified before the meeting, but do any councillors have any pecuniary interests they would like to declare? Looks like a no. Thank you very much, all. Item 4 refers to the minutes of our last meeting, which was held on Wednesday, the 25th of March of this year. The recommendation from officers is that we agree the minutes of the last meeting as a true and accurate record, and that they be signed as such. I'm very happy to propose that. Councillor Northam has kindly seconded. Votes for? And against? Abstentions? Thank you very much. Item 5, councillor questions, none of which have been received to be included with the agenda prior to dispatch. Do councillors have any pressing questions they would like to ask this evening? None, including councillors in the public seats? No? Thank you, Madam Mayor. In which case, we move on to public questions, and there are no other members of the public present. So we'll right on to item number 7, grant applications, which the Deputy Town Clerk will introduce.
Yes, Chair. For those of members who were here at our last meeting, you may recall that the Motorway application was deferred for additional information to be sought, particularly around whether any of the funding would be used to be by the members of the actual organisation itself, or whether they'd be paying themselves. We've had that clarification back that the funding is going to be used for external expertise, which they haven't got in-house, to undertake a specific area of work, so it does fall within our policy. Members recall that we did agree in the last meeting to keep that money set aside just in case you were minded to, with that additional information, support that application now. We did spend some time talking around, we're trying to clarify if wages or part of running costs should be funded by grant applications, and it's been recommended that we just amend some of the guidance or guidelines, which I've included in red, just to try and strengthen the fact that it's not to be used for funding members from within our own organisations, but it can be used for expertise being brought into fulfil a project. So there's 2 recommendations there. The first one is to ask members whether they now support the application, and the second one is just to approve that slight wording of the guidelines to say that it include that if not made for running costs, and they shouldn't be used for salaries and wages for those people within the organisation.
Thank you very much, Ian. Shall we deal with the first recommendation initially? Does anyone want to speak about the application itself? Are we happy to move straight into a vote on that? Yeah. Nothing? Okay then. Votes for? I do apologise, I haven't voted. So I tell you what, shall we do the voting on that, and I'll propose and second the 2 together afterwards? No,
you can't vote in a second.
well, I'll propose it.
I'll second.
Wonderful.
We just do them separately, Chair.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Show of hands again. It'll be unanimous. So that is
Votes for, do apologise.
Change my other way, but
It's contagious.
second part, Chair, on the wording change.
Any thoughts, Councillor Furman?
Yeah, just something that me and Ian have been working on, just to give members that confidence from the last meeting that we were ensuring that nobody was coming to us trying to, for want of a better phrase, line their own pockets through the work, and we wanted to make sure that these came from expertise outside of organisations. So that's just what some simple wording that me and Ian worked on to provide you.
Excellent, thank you very much. Councillor O'Leary.
Yes, fully agree. Will this now stop applications that put in these wages and salaries coming to this committee? Because they put it in and it's not in line with that, it's annoying that it still comes here for us to reject it when it shouldn't really make it through that net because it clearly isn't in line with the policy. So can it be knocked back at that first hurdle? Not based on that policy there in Ed?
Yeah, I agree. Deputy Director, now that we have that, what additional clarification, is that something that we can do ongoing?
It is, it's traditionally, they sort of, some of them have still come forward because of that transparency aspect, so that the applicants can understand you guys as members have actually considered them, but if we've got that clear direction, it's certainly something that we can pick up now, at the earlier stage and go back to it. We give that feedback.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the best way to think about it is like a planning application, not a planning application made to a committee because they get refused by officers if they are clearly not in line with planning policy. Therefore, to me, it's a similar aspect of it. I understand that transparency aspect, but obviously if officers then just go back and say the policy states this. I understand it when it's a bit more fluid and a bit vague that it comes to committee, but I think when it's quite clearly the way it shouldn't be knocked back at the first hurdle.
Thank you. Councillor Norman.
The principle of not spending time unnecessarily, from a transparency point of view, we could always have it come to the committee with a not recommended as non-compliant, and then we don't have to discuss it. But it's transparent to the public that an application has been made, which I think has some merit. In people knowing what application has been made. Would you be happy with that?
I think it's probably, I think as long as they're, sorry, may I come back on that?
Yes, you can, sorry.
I think where I would have a few issues with that one, I think, because I think they just need to be told frankly that it doesn't meet the policy. I don't think the public necessarily, as long as the people have put the application in now, there's other things that are not back in count. I think you don't get an allotment, etc. It's not published on a regular basis for transparency purposes, etc. But I think that it just maybe shouldn't come to this committee.
Councillor Webb.
I'm inclined to agree with Councillor O'Leary. I don't see any point, if it doesn't fill the criteria, it doesn't need to come to this committee to be, even a cursory discussion of, okay, we're ignoring it. It doesn't fill the criteria, it doesn't come here.
Understood.
Officers let them know why it hasn't, and that's that.
Does sound more streamlined. Councillor Further.
I would echo that. I'm just looking at the policy now. I think anything that says grants will not be made to, anything that we've got listed under there automatically bounces it back as a non-complete application. For it to be a complete application that is seen by the committee, it should adhere to the policy. If it does not, it is not considered by the committee. I think, and that's for officers to communicate that to applicants before we're ever even privy to stuff.
Absolutely.
Cuts down on paperwork.
Agreed. Okay then, would anyone else like to speak to that one, or are you happy for me to propose that one? That second element, well, consider that proposed. Councillor Furman has kindly seconded it. Votes for. Excellent. On board. Thank you all. Item 8 is the review of financial regulations. Ian, lead us through it.
Thank you, Chair. It should be relatively straightforward. We are required each year to consider the financial regulations officially to make sure they remain fit for purpose. There's no major changes in legislation which we need to incorporate this year. What we have done is just made some very slight amendments which don't materially change the financial regulations, which are based on the recommendations which the internal audit has put forwards. So we've incorporated those, but they are minor. There's no significant changes, so just asking if you can hopefully recommend those full council for adoption.
Thank you very much. It looks like the major changes there are around corporate credit card and trade accounts. And so there's nothing huge there. Councillor Barrow, I'm conscious that you would like to speak. Do go on.
No, if that's okay, Karen, I've just got a couple of questions, and that was 7.5, I think, if I can find that one and coordinate it with the scribble I have in my notebook.
Will I read it while you, so everyone's on the same page?
There we go. It's the corporate credit cards. There have been instances where it's been necessary for somebody to use their personal credit card and then come back to you, is what I wanted to ask, because if there has, and we're now saying that they can do that, is that risky? That those are the two things that I'd like reassurance on.
I think there has been incidences whether that's been the case, and it could be that if I'm going to issue the main issue such as youth council, they went to London and say it was a boiling hot day and they needed to sort of keep them hydrated. They may not have had that ability to use any other method, but others do get to make sure that the youngsters stay hydrated and buy water, for example. They are few and far between, but it does recognise what can happen and it puts it into the financial regulations. There's the only thing I would state is reimbursement is not a guarantee. So if there is any questions over expenditure being incurred, we have to be confident that it's legitimate expenditure in line with council policy procedures, and it needs to be accompanied by full receipts as well.
I'm very happy with that. If I can bring up the other two, they're both very quick.
Far away.
Asset register, we've got a couple of things coming up on the agenda later today. After we've approved that, are we pretty much up to date with our asset register now, and we've got all the procedures in place for updating and reviewing as and when?
We haven't got the final electronic version or dancing, but that's in the pipeline.
Right, that's absolutely fine, thank you. And the very final one, I think it's the final one, I don't think I went over on the new page, no I didn't. 17.2, can I just confirm that we no longer administer any charities? I know when this council started, we still had the Sanderson and Wells. I think I know I dealt with that at great length to transfer that over to somebody else's responsibility. We don't have anything else doing. That's great. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this one? In which case, I would like to propose a recommendation that the committee recommends full council of revised financial regulations for adoption. Anyone like to second that? Thank you, Tom. Votes for. Well done, everyone. Item 9 relates to the Swannery Item 9 relates to the Swannery compound and the St John's Stores asset transfer, which Charmaine is going to introduce for us, please.
Thank you, Chair. This report asks members to consider whether the council should express an interest in taking on 2 assets from Dorset Council through the community asset transfer process. These 2 assets being St John's Garden Store and Swannery Toilets compound. St John's Garden Store is located within land already owned by the council. However, this small gardener's shed was excluded when we transfer in 2019. It's in a usable condition to provide practical storage of tools and equipment for our gardeners, and only need minimal improvement costs of around £500. The Swannery Toilets compound is currently unused and eyesore and has potential to support operational services. It can be adapted to provide storage and subject to installation and charging infrastructure, but also support a small electric vehicle. Some repairs would be required, and this is estimated up to £1,500. At this stage, members have been asked to approve the submission of an expression of interest to put assets to Dorset Council. This is the first step in the process, and if successful, more details will come back to committee before anything gets signed over.
Thank you very much. Would anyone like to speak to this particular one? Councillor Weller and then Councillor Clifford.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of I think I was aware, but I hadn't thought about the St John's store. Very much aware of the building on the Swannery car park, and we talked about it at great length over a number of years. So I would like to recommend that we go ahead with as much speed as we can to deal with this and get both buildings back in operation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clifford.
It's similar lines. I think the phrase I saw was used. Is there anything in the budget for the Swannery building that will improve the look of the place? Because it is quite grim.
So as part of the repairs to the we potentially put a roof onto it and also give it a bit of liquid paint and, you know, sort out the caging element of the front where it's broken. But there's not a lot we can do to the brickwork, but we will certainly gauge some things in them. I think, yeah, and then pretty quickly clear out the quite big wounds.
The trail becomes paradise or thing.
Could I ask, there's a map on the side of it and then a space next to the map. Can we make sure we use the whole of the building to welcome people to Weymouth? A lot of them walk past, the first thing they see having fun.
As it becomes our asset itself, that we can look at, and also there is a bid come into a future ENS meeting at the end of May regarding both finance image.
Thank you. Anyone? No, in which case, I'm happy to propose this one as well. Anyone like to second that? Thank you, Councillor North. Thank you, Councillor Weller. Sorry,
No, that's fine.
votes for? Excellent. Item 10 relates to the Rymead Community Centre heads on. Shall I go again?
There is a confidential report that accompanies the agenda, and just to give a bit of background, this has previously come to committee, and you have previously agreed to issue the trustees with 8-year lease. However, they've come back and asked if we can increase that to 10 years. It will then allow them to apply for grant funding and so forth. 10-year lease with the 5-year break clause and the heads of terms are attached to them as to appendix. So we previously agreed, but it's been for a short period.
Councillor Weller.
Thank you. I've been involved in the setting up of the new committee that run the Rymead Community Centre. It fell into sort of malaise for some time with elderly trustees. They've now got some what I regard as very young trustees, and they're doing great stuff. They badly need to put on a new roof. The roof is badly designed, so it's always a problem. But they've had some good advice. They should be able to get a watertight roof. But in order to do that, they will need to apply for grants, and they're much more likely to have grants if they've got that 10-year lease rather than an 8-year lease. I'm very impressed with the work they're doing at the moment, so I'd be very pleased if you would approve that 10-year lease rather than sticking with an 8-year with break clauses.
Absolutely. I can't think of a good reason off the top of my head why we would not go back on our decision, but happy for anyone else to
Make a comment. I welcome that recommendation when looking at the building. It is in need of some lovely tenderness, and I just make a comment that people naturally look to Weymouth Town Council for grants. There's an opportunity to look to Dorset Council as well, and I would happily help anybody who wishes to make an application to Dorset Council for such grant funding under the community grant scheme that they operate, which has a higher value. Thank you.
Just come back, Sharon.
Councillor Weller.
They are doing so. I was at their last committee meeting and I sent in information, so they are making grants at every avenue possible,
Good for
or
them.
grant applications rather.
In that case, would you like to propose this?
Yes, please.
So is this a proposal to?
Sorry, let me read out the proposal. The proposal is that this committee agree for officers to proceed and issue a lease to the trustees of Rymead Community Centre on Rymead Lane as per the terms detailed within the report.
As detailed within the report, does the report say 10 years
No,
or
it
8 years?
says 8, so we need.
It says 8, so you need an amendment to 10.
Thank you, thank you, councillor Dickinson.
You'd be a good mayor. So would you like to propose
I
an
would
amendment?
propose that amendment that the term is increased to 10 years from 8 years, perhaps councillor Dickinson you would
Second.
second.
Excellent, shall we vote on that then? Votes for? Excellent, well done.
And then I'd like to propose that with the amendment, we accept the recommendations.
Absolutely, I'll happily second that as well. Thank you. It's okay.
I'm voting.
And votes for? Thank you very much. System's brownies there, but not recent.
Right, still there.
Oh, excellent, glad to hear it.
We need more people to have babies. We need more brands.
Well, I'm showing a meeting my mum.
Really what I can do.
You've got 2 potential brands.
The Dog Scouts.
Item 11 is takes us to the information items, so please see the actions from previous meetings and the forward plan. We're all grown up, so we'll take it that you have noted the information items. Thank you very much. And at 19:21, I will councillor Thurber.
One little thing, members, just to extend thanks to councillor Civil, who's stepping down as Finance and Governance Chair.
Oh, thank
He's done a fine job last few years, so thank you very much.
Thank you. 1922.